This is World of Business, your weekly cutting-edge business show. Now, this week, a lot has been happening in this business space, and we are going to be taking a look at that. And in a latest development, the central bank has frozen about 522 bank accounts belonging to companies and individuals. It has also heavily fined 140 entities for violating the country's exchange control regulations. We will be analyzing this with Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe Financial Intelligence Unit Director, that is Mr. Oliver Chiperesa. But as well, on this show, we take pride in shedding the spotlight on our entrepreneurs, the people who have been making it on their own in the Zimbabwe economy. We'll be talking about those as well. But we look at the exchange rates as of today. Exchange rates as of today were: the Zimbabwe gold to the United States dollar interbank rate was at 13.49 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the Great Britain pound interbank rate was at 17.20 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the euro interbank rate was at 14.49 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the South African rand interbank rate was at 1.37 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the Britain pound interbank rate was at 0.98 ZiG. The Zimbabwe gold to the Botswana pula was at interbank rate was at 0.98 ZiG. We also give you the commodity prices on the global market. Commodity prices as of today were: gold per ounce traded at $2,331 after it went up by 0.20 percentage points. Silver per ounce traded at $29.50 after it went up by 0.26 percentage points. Copper per pound traded at $451.05 after it went up by 1.65 percentage points. Platinum per ounce traded at $951.29 after it went down by 6.23 percentage points. Well, that's all we had for you in the first segment of your World of Business. Join us in the second segment. Welcome back to the second segment of your World of Business. I am Malvin Matawa. Now, as hinted earlier on, the central bank has frozen about 522 bank accounts belonging to companies and individuals. It has also heavily fined 140 entities for violating the country's exchange control regulations. We need answers to this, and we are going to analyze this issue with the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe Financial Intelligence Unit Director, that is Mr. Oliver Chiperesa. Mr. Chiperesa, welcome to World of Business.
Thank you, Malvin, for having me.
So last month, the RBZ principal economist, that is Dr. Stephen Moyo, said that through the Financial Intelligence Unit, which is the unit that you work for, will be descending on individuals and institutions that are flouting the exchange rate. Now, we have been seeing this since January, or maybe even a bit before that. Now, to date, can you tell us how many have been caught on the wrong side of the law, and what measures have you been putting in place so that the number decreases as we go forward?
Thank you very much, Malvin. So maybe let me start by explaining that the approach that we are taking at the moment is two-pronged. We are targeting traders who are either refusing to accept ZiG, or when they accept ZiG, they are taking it at parallel market rates. You are putting a premium on top of the official rate. Then we are also targeting people who destabilize our currency through conducting illegal foreign currency transactions. These involve monitoring and analyzing banking transactions, and then flagging out those that are carrying out illegal activities. So out of this two-pronged approach, since January we have frozen to date more than 500 accounts, as you have indicated. And out of those more than 500 accounts, we have issued penalties, 160 penalties in terms of fines. Some of them we have, where we have not issued fines, we have simply warned, where we notice that the violation is minor and maybe there are good reasons to warn and caution the the offender. We warn and caution them so that they don't do it again the next time. And then a few of them, we find them to be, they are cleared of any wrongdoing.
Okay, so now we have seen that the RBZ does not disclose the names of the companies and individuals whose bank accounts have been red flagged or have been frozen. But can you detail the action that can lead to one having this predicament? How do you red flag an account?
Yes, so part of the main work of the FIU on a daily basis, we have a team of analysts that go through banking transactions. In fact, it's also a two-pronged approach in the sense that we require banks to implement robust and effective transaction monitoring systems so that they monitor the transactions that their customers are undertaking. They identify any irregularities and red flags, and they should report those to the FIU. But quite independent from what the banks report to us, the FIU teams also on a day-to-day basis analyze the banking transactions themselves, and they pick out also any red flags, irregular patterns that may point out towards possible illegality. And then we investigate those further, and ultimately when we then strongly suspect that someone is conducting illegal transactions like trading on the foreign exchange, illegal foreign exchange market, we then freeze their accounts pending further investigations. And when we have done those investigations and we confirm that this truly was an illegal transaction, we issue a penalty. And what we are empowered to issue as the FIU, it's our fines at the end of the day. So we issue a penalty letter, we give the offender an opportunity to explain themselves, and if they don't explain, the penalty is confirmed.
Okay.
But that is in relation to the exercise that we do to monitor transactions. As far as traders are concerned, we simply send out teams into the field. We have teams that we deploy across the different centers of the country, the different provinces. They go out into the market, check the exchange rates that are being used by the different traders. And when we again find that a trader is either refusing to accept ZIG or is using a rate above what is prescribed, we issue a penalty letter again, give him or her an opportunity to explain. And if they don't give an adequate explanation within 7 days, again, we issue a penalty.
Okay, so let's now put focus on the big entities, because I hear you saying that you might be looking at patterns that are inconsistent with normal shopping behavior. But how thorough, though, can this audit or exercise be, especially looking at the fact that some big retailers and companies are actually guilty of violating the exchange rate control mechanisms that you've put in place?
So in terms of companies that conduct big transactions, again, like indicated, the first onus rests with the bank, with the bank that banks that customer. The bank has an obligation to monitor on an ongoing basis, on the basis of know your customer principle. They must know the patterns of transaction by their customers, so that when the customer deviates from that expected pattern of transacting, then they flag it. They use modern IT systems that tend to pick out those red flags, and then they apply human intervention to carry out further analysis. Then what we then also do to make sure it's thorough enough, we also then audit the banks themselves. Our teams also go and monitor the banks to make sure that they have these thorough and effective transaction monitoring systems in place. And we've actually found a few banks that we have found not to be implementing transaction monitoring systems that are effective and adequate. Then again, like I indicated, apart from relying on what the banks give us, we then also use our own analysis. We also have the relevant IT tools that analyze the transactions and try to pick out those red flags. And we focus we put a lot of focus on those big transactions. But it doesn't necessarily mean that when someone conducts a big transaction, it may turn out to be illegal, but it may simply be a transaction that raises eyebrows that is not in the normal course of business.
Okay, so now let's now try to tackle this question, because a lot of people are waiting for the answer. We have landlords and the tenants, the relationship. Most landlords expect to be paid using United States dollars. So is there now a facility which has been put in place to make sure that we give the RBZ our ZIG and we get our US dollar without being on the wrong side of the law?
Okay, yes, thank you for that question. So when it comes to getting foreign currency from banks, foreign currency is only obtained when you want to make to pay a foreign obligation. If you want to import something, if you want to pay for a service outside the country, the banks don't issue foreign currency for domestic transactions. And there is no reason to do that, because in a multi-currency system, our landlords should be accepting the ZIG.
So it's illegal for landlords to refuse the ZIG? It
is indeed illegal, and if they are reported, we will also take action. But our expectation is that also as the ZIG gains more and more acceptance, we have seen the stability that has endured for a couple of months now. Give it another couple of months, I think that confidence in the market will grow, and you will begin to see the different players, even those that have not been accepting the ZIG now, begin to accept it. I think the fear of some people has been that if I take ZIG, just like the ZIM dollar that we had, it will lose value and I can't keep it in my bank account. But with time, people will begin to realize that just as we used to have way back decades ago, our local currency that we used to earn and we could keep in our accounts for ages, I think that is where we are heading at the moment. So those landlords who are refusing to accept ZIG at the moment, they will soon be accepting. But at the moment, I can confirm that's illegal, and should you report them to us, we are ready to take appropriate action.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Mr. Chiperesa. That was Mr. Oliver Chiperesa. He is the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe Financial Intelligence Unit Director. Now, we have been discussing this issue, which has been trending this week because the central bank has frozen, that is from January to date, up to 530 bank accounts belonging to companies and individuals, and it has also heavily fined 140 entities for violating the country's exchange control regulations. Again, thank you for coming through to World of Business.
Thank you, Marvin.
That is it for this edition of your World of Business. Join us in the third and final segment as we'll be looking at our Entrepreneur of the Week. Welcome to the third and final segment of World of Business, where we give you our Entrepreneur of the Week. Now, this week, the World of Business team spoke to Mr. George Mudanga, an owner of a 205-hectare farm, also the biggest pig producer in the Chegutu district. Let us hear more from Sela Marere as she speaks to Mr. Mudanga.
Consistent with the aspirations of the Second Republic to achieve an empowered and prosperous upper middle income economy by 2030, value addition remains one of the key elements that have been cited to measure the performance of the manufacturing sector. Today we are in Mashonaland West in the beautiful city of Chegutu, where we have visited Mr. George Mudanga, the managing director of Bradford Farm, who is going to take us through the operations of this farm. He only started farming as a hobby, but later on developed huge interest in it and established a huge enterprise. We're going to learn more from this conversation. Stay tuned. Hey, Mr. Mudanga, we thank you so much for hosting us today. Can you tell us about the birth of this farm? What were the circumstances surrounding you even starting the idea of farming?
It's farming. I was born on a farm, so it has always been in me. My grandfather owned a farm in Wedza, so that's where I grew up with him, doing all the chores on the farm, from maize growing, cotton, groundnuts, and even reared a bit of pigs. So when there was an opportunity through the land reform, I then applied for this farm, and that's how I became to be here.
So you said you were born on a farm, and farming is something that you've always wanted to do since you were young. Can you walk us through the operations of this farm?
Okay, so this farm is 205 hectares in extent. And on the farm we do cropping, which is your summer crop. So we do maize and soya, almost 70 hectares of maize and 30 hectares of soya. And then we also do horticulture, where we grow your vegetables for the local market. And then the biggest operation we've got here is the piggery. We're running a 250 sow unit on the farm. We also do chickens on the other section of the farm under contract from Brand Agro. This is our operations on Bradford farming.
Okay, so you're seemingly changing the narrative of big farms only being owned by white farmers. It's something that we are not yet used to as black people. We are still embracing farming as a business. What can you say about this narrative, and how can we change stereotypes like this?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing that we need to do as black people is believe in ourselves, believe in our ability, not only to feed ourselves, but also to feed our nation, and also to feed even the region and the world. So there's nothing that's in color. We can do whatever any other color can do. That's my belief, and I am one person who is driven by that. And I also encourage all my colleagues of all colors to ensure that they are driven by the need to succeed on whatever you are doing, be it farming or any other business. We can do anything. Nothing stops us from.
Okay. So for the benefit of that aspiring farmer and the farmers that are already in business, what do you think about turning farming into a business, since it's something that you've already done?
The first thing that we need to do is to ensure that we know that farming is a business. It's not a pastime, it's not a weekend thing, neither is it a cell phone thing that you can control things happening on the farm through cell phone and everything. You need to be involved. Hands-on is one thing. You need to know what is happening on the farm. You need to know what the pigs are eating. You need to know how much bags you are putting if you are planting anything. So you need to be in charge, you need to be in control. The other thing that is also very important is to ensure that you've got a relationship with your bank, with your agri-tax extension officers. Also importantly, you also need to know your market in terms of when you have grown something, where are you going to sell it. So you need that kind of relationship with all these stakeholders that are important to your business.
Can you walk us through the value chain, looking at the various projects that you're involved in at this farm?
Okay, so I think for us, all the maize, all the soya that we grow are for our own consumption. So it's actually not even enough to feed our pigs and the chickens. So everything that we grow, we bring it in here for milling to ensure that our pigs have got feed. We are a farm that uses plus or minus 80 tons of maize on every month, and we need plus or minus 20 tons of soya also every month. So everything that we grow here works on the farm, and then we bring it out as meat on the pork side. So it is important again for us, our next step is also to ensure that we do a lot of value addition on the pork, not just to sell it as pork, but to sell it as processed, be your sausages, your bacon and everything. So that's the stage that we are moving to. But certainly we are talking to our financiers to ensure that that dream is made a success. And I think that's where we need to head to as Zimbabwean farmers, other than just to put porkers on the market. Let's put the sausage, let's put the bacon on there. So I think one a marketing channel that we are currently using is obviously the abattoirs. We market through one big abattoir in Harare, and we also supply retail chain stores in the country as well, and also independent butcheries.
So why is value addition important in livestock production, in your own experience and analysis?
So the first thing that it does is it adds value in terms of what you get as a farmer. When I sell my pigs as porkers, I get an amount, for argument's sake, $3. When someone cuts it and call it a pork chop, they get $5. So there is certainly an increase in value when you add or you improve or do a bit of processing. I mean, I've just given a simple example of cutting a meat and giving it a name, and then certainly the value has gone up. So it also creates employment. It also gives good protein to our country in terms of making sure that we feed ourselves.
Still looking at value addition as a concept, you rightfully mentioned that the other benefits that have come with establishing this farm is the number of people that you're actually employing. Can you walk us through your staff complement, both part-time and full-time workers?
Yes, we employing on the farm 37 employees at the moment. These are obviously on all our operational areas. But it is also important to let you guys know that we are taking quite a number of students on attachment. So now a lot of agricultural colleges are also requiring these students to have on-farm experience even before they enroll. So that's a big cluster that we are taking. We've got plus or minus 6 students at any given time on the farm. And then we also have our stock people, be they stockmen for the piggery, and then our flockmen for the chickens, and then our drivers for the trucks, the tractors, and most importantly the skilled labor in terms of our production manager, Edwin, good experience, our farm managers, also very good experience in terms of ensuring that the farm runs smoothly. It's also one thing that I also need to let my farmers know. That's what it takes. It doesn't take you doing everything as a farmer. You can't achieve it. You need that necessary support to ensure.
So talking about implementing technological means and smart farming techniques, in 2021 you actually launched a pig artificial insemination station here at your farm. What are the benefits that have come with making that move, and also what are the other future benefits that any other aspiring farmer can look up to when it comes to implementing technological means in livestock farming?
So technology, I think we can't run away from it. It's coming to take over the production cycles. So for us in piggery production, that artificial insemination launch that we did in 2021 was a game changer to our head. Not only to us, but even to the people in the district, people around us. One, we are able to also sell the semen of the latest bulls that we imported to them. And the whole process on its own, artificial insemination, has seen our number born in terms of piglets that are born per sow increasing. And we have also increased the number, the uniformity in terms of being born of the same size. And that also increases the livability of those animals in terms of they're able to live. And we have certainly enjoyed that snap as something that has really changed how we do our business. So technology, we need to embrace it. Even in the stock feed manufacturing, we are also constantly improving to ensure that we make sure that the feed that we are giving to our animals are of the right nutrients, and we are always tasting. So it's all technology, and it's something that we can't run away from.
Looking at Vision 2030 as a concept that has been put forward by our very own government, what are the future plans that you have for Zimbabwe, looking at your farm, and the future plans that you have even for the farm?
I think the biggest thing that we are looking at is value addition, and also opening up export markets. We've done in terms of increasing our head, and we are now at a stage where we can actually start looking into what can we export. But obviously, we can't export pork just as meat. We need to export the byproducts, the processed product. It's easier in terms of the volume, and it's also good in terms of the value. That's what we are looking at. And for us as Bradford, we have partnered with other like-minded farmers in the district, and we will be embarking on an abattoir meat processing at Selu, which is something that needs to come within the next year. So we are looking at not just sending live pigs to Harare for slaughter, but doing it ourselves there, and also building our own brand, which we will then put in the supermarkets to ensure that our people have got a choice when they go shopping.
So lastly, Mr. Mdanga, do you think that agriculture is the future of Zimbabwe, and what should we do as a nation to retain Zimbabwe in the African continent to its breadbasket status?
Agriculture is the future, and why it is the future is because we always need to eat. There is no way we will run away from eating. So for us to be able to feed ourselves, obviously we need to be organized. We need to take this as a serious business, not as a pastime, like I said earlier on. And we also need to work together as farmers to ensure that there is an exchange program, and also the upliftment of the smallholder farmers, which is something that we already are doing, but we should intensify on it, where we need to say, as a farmer, just have 3 or 4 farmers, young farmers that you also mentor, so that at least their production levels and their efficiency and the return that they get out of the business is meaningful.
A very educational conversation that we've had here today with Mr. George Mudanga, who has not only taught us the importance of agriculture as the future of Zimbabwe, but has also elucidated on the fact that implementing smart farming techniques is indeed the future of Zimbabwe and the African continent as a whole. And that brings an end to this week's segment of our Entrepreneur of the Week. Be sure to join us again on our next episode. It's now back to the studio.
Well, that was the third and final segment, which brings us to the end of this week's edition of World of Business, which brought into perspective the importance of value addition and beneficiation as an element of the National Development Strategy. Join us again next week, same time, as we bring you another different topic which is trending on the business.